What's going on, guys? This is Mastermind here again. Today, I want to talk about something that's probably going to be short, unlike the last two videos. That's like 40 minutes long, but we're gonna see. I want to ask the question: should you always say the truth and nothing but the truth at all times? And when is it okay or right to lie? Now, we are always told, like as children, that lying is immoral at every single standard. You should always say the truth and nothing but the truth at any given point. And I want to really tackle that idea, because I don't think that's really true. But first, let's get to the basics, alright, to answer these questions. What does it mean to lie? Lying, as we all know, is the intentional act of manipulating a person's perception of you. It's like manipulating a person's reality of you. Of you. You are deliberately misleading and giving false information to others or yourself to persuade and deceive. A lie is typically, like I said, is seen as very, very bad. But the thing is, people lie all the time. We lie to people, right? Everybody lies to another person, and we sometimes lie to ourselves. And yet we don't like being lied to. When we are the ones, right, that's on the receiving end of a lie, we don't like that. And yet when we are the ones giving off the lies, we are fine with that, right? And I think that's something more or less people will agree upon, right? If someone lied to you, you're gonna be like, I understand, right? You're gonna be like, why'd you lie to me? But if you were to lie to someone else, you wouldn't even give a damn, like 9 times out of 10. Now, I will also mention, right, that the majority of the time when you think of a lie, right, especially with the definition of a lie, you would think someone's trying to gain something from you, right? Like they're trying to get something from you for some specific advantage, right? But that doesn't happen all too frequently. In an article from the University of Wisconsin, they made this blog post about research on lying, or about lying, on 632 participants. I want to tell you exactly what they statistically find, because people in this research would self-report their lies. And statistically speaking, the reasons why people lie vary. 21% of the time is to avoid others, 20% of the time is as humor, 14% is to protect oneself, 13% is to impress or appear more favorable, 11% is to protect another person, 9% to benefit, 5% to benefit of another person, for the benefit of another person, 2% to hurt, and 5% for unspecified reasons. Now, from all of that percentages I just said that 9% is for benefit. It's for the advantage, right? Considering that 75% of the participants lied 0 to 2 times per day within the 91 days this research lasted, it could be said that people don't try to take advantage of others that frequently. Now, it can be inferred, right, with the reasons above, that all lies were essentially just out of selfish reason, right? Because regardless, all of them is for a selfish reason, and you wouldn't be that far from saying that. Because whenever someone lies, it's typically they're trying to do something, trying to avoid something, right? It's typically selfish of them to lie. It is also to note that these lies, like I said, were self-reported, and so these numbers should more or less be taken with a grain of salt. as it could be possible the participants didn't give off every lie they told, especially with that 5% that I just said for unspecified reasons, and how approximately 90% of all lies from the participants were quote-unquote little white lies. Obviously, not many people will probably be willing to talk about their big lies, right? Even though some did, right? Even though some did, but not everybody's going to be willing to talk about their big lies, especially when the research is going public, right? Because let's be honest, if you were to say a big lie to someone, like maybe your family or your friends, right? And you have to tell another person that, like, hey, I lied, to my friends that, I don't know, I dropped out of school or something, or that I'm still in school, but I'm actually just a dropout, right? Or that, I don't have a boyfriend, but I actually do have a boyfriend, and, he got me pregnant, like, no one's really just going to be more than willing to say that's someone else, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a hint of privacy that you want to put upon that. And that's especially considering that in this study, it's not like explicitly said of what students say. And I do want to mention, though, about another article. I saw a Psychology Today article that discusses an international study of lying. So the first study was with specifically in America. This one is an international study. And the conclusion here, right? They had similar statistics and everything with the first one with University of Wisconsin. But the conclusion here is that most people tell the truth. Their conclusion is that it is our default communication with the majority, or within the majority, to tell the truth. And that most of our lies are small lies. The reason this study is much more trustworthy is because of the multiple studies across multiple countries. So in one country, they would do multiple studies there. In another, they would do multiple studies there, so on and so forth, right? And like I said, this is many countries, so a wide variety of people, which makes this a lot more trustworthy. Now, with all that said, right, people tell the truth the majority of the time, and when they lie, they're aware of their lie, know it's wrong, and typically lie about something small, right? They can lie big, but that is very rare for it to happen. And we can probably get into the shame behind lying and whatnot. But the question here is, should people tell the truth at all times? We're not going to talk about the shame and all that stuff. Because at that point, we're just avoiding the question. Heck, we're avoiding the question now. Me personally, right? I'm sorry if I'm going really fast. I have some energy, don't I? Me personally, I would say that you shouldn't say the truth at all times. And here's why. There are certain cases where it's better to lie for the betterment of someone. For example, if you had a child who performed at a recital, right? They did some good performance, maybe it was something for school. And they're, super excited to come up to you about it afterwards. They're like full of energy, they're super happy, and they ask you, right, once they come up to you, if you liked the performance. Would you really tell your child with a straight face, right, that you thought the performance was bad? You didn't like their performance, you didn't like the performance in general. I would say that is a vicious lie. That is a lie that does not have any good intention behind it, right? Like, at that point, you're trying to hurt your child. I would say this is one of the forms of little white lying, if not the only form of little white lying, that is more or less fine to do, and you probably should do, Another example, another reason why, is that at extreme/intense scenarios, it could be better to lie, or at least it shouldn't be frowned upon to lie, so that you can save yourself and or someone else from like extreme levels of trouble. An easy example of this would be life and death situations, right? You might, God forbid it comes to anybody, but you might need to lie in order to save your life or someone else's life, or both. And I mean, like, go for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you tell the truth, oh, these people might die. Yeah, you should probably lie. You should probably lie, if you can, right? If not, give like a half truth, which is still lying in a sense. If what you're trying to avoid is life changing, and in a terrible degree, like I said, it should not be frowned upon to lie, right? But if it's something that you did that was terrible, right, and you're just trying to avoid the consequences of that, sure, right, you could go ahead and lie, but you got to admit yourself that what you did was pretty stupid and horrible, right? Like, you gotta change. There's something about you that's gotta change. You know what I'm saying? And also another reason why would be when privacy matters more. If you're trying to protect someone from a specific situation that you're in, then just do that with a lie. There are some cases where it's like you're maybe having beef with someone, and maybe one of your friends is like, dude, what's going on, right? And you just tell them, don't worry about it, right? Like, that makes sense. That makes sense why you do that. Or you lie saying, oh, there's nothing wrong, everything's okay, I got this and whatnot, all that basic stuff. And honestly, when someone says don't worry about it, right, for, I would say, the majority of situations, there's a pretty fat chance you shouldn't worry about it. Like, you should take them for their word, right? Because there are certain things it really is just not your business. Straight up, it's just not your business. Now, what you shouldn't lie about and admit fault to is, I would say, the majority of little white lying. These lies add up to a fake story and fake reality that you are now molding in front of people. And at some point, that is just going to catch up to you, and people are going to realize your lies. Heck, people can probably realize you're a little white lying from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, if you keep lying about the little things, like, over and over and over, if you're pretty much like a pathological liar, no one should trust you. No one has a reason to trust you. You know what I'm saying? How are you supposed to have friends at this point? And honestly, what would you even benefit, really? Like, for an example I wrote down here in my notes, if someone has, like, a terrible t-shirt, right? It could be some dang brain-rotted, tung sa horror t-shirt, you know what I'm saying? Like, some terrible t-shirt. It's so bad. It could be offensive even. It's like, oh my gosh. There's no way you're going out with that kind of thing. And they ask you, is my shirt looking good? Is my outfit good? Do I look, swagger and all that? Honestly, if it was up to me, I would be like, hell no. Like, you are not going out with that gang. I'm not gonna lie with you. And honestly, that could be for the better. That's more like criticism than cruelty, right? And honestly, all you have to really say is just, I don't think you should wear that shirt. I don't think your shirt looks good. You could just be like that instead of just going over the top. And that could lead them to, like, leading that so what mentality. Right? Because, like, you may think you look good, and then people, criticize you or try to be like, yeah, you do not look good, bro. And you're like, I don't care. I'll just go out with the outfit anyways. That's something, right? That is a lesson you can learn about that so what mentality, because sometimes that does help. And or You could also make them change their shirt. You know, they'll probably convince them, yeah, I probably don't look all that good. Another reason that you should definitely tell the truth is if you witnessed a crime. If you witnessed a murder and you are interrogated about what you witnessed, you should say the damn truth. Like, why would you lie in that kind of situation? You know what I mean? Well, actually, I probably can't say another example. Otherwise, YouTube's gonna go crazy. Overall, when it comes to the judicial kind of stuff, where you have to testify in court, or talk to police for everything, yeah, you should tell the truth. Absolute the truth, 100%, full details, everything, right? Because they need that information to especially bring justice. And if you're going to lie to obstruct justice, then I'm not gonna lie with you. Like, I honestly don't even know what to say. Why would you? You don't gain anything from this, and you could be preventing a justice that's extremely necessary. Say that if we're going with this murder case, right? Murder already affects people big time, right? Because that really impacts families and friends and so many people. And for you to lie and be like, yeah, that murder never happened, the murderer was such a nice guy and everything and all that stuff. Like, you are just such a messed up human being. You were too much of a messed up human being. Overall, what determines whether you should lie or tell the truth is very situation dependent, as well as the intent behind it. There's obviously certain exceptions to certain things that I said. I would say overall, like 99.9% of the time, this is like true of what I said. But sometimes it's also the intent behind your words that really do matter. I feel like with a lie, it really is the intention. Obviously, it's the situation too, but it's mostly the intention. Because if you lie for the betterment of someone, you could tell the truth to criticize them and have them be better. But the situation between a child being excited of a recital and your friend wearing a terrible t-shirt is two very different scenarios. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't say the truth at all times, because sometimes you may even come out as cruel, right? Because it's one thing to be honest, it's another thing to also be blunt, right? And oftentimes, yeah, being blunt is fine, right? Sometimes people need the raw honesty, right? Kind of like a wake-up call sometimes. But there are certain times where it's just like, you're just straight cruel, And heck, you may even come out as rude, or many other things. And you may say, well, I'm telling the truth. Yeah, sure, but that doesn't change things. That doesn't justify your possible cruelty and rudeness and all that stuff. Or heck, not even possible. If you actually, were rude, then you were rude. You know what I'm saying? You can't really justify it. You just gotta apologize and do better. There's certain times where you should lie, certain times where you should tell the truth. It's like I said, very situational dependent and very intention based. And overall, that's it. Very short video, I know. Very, very short video. But I feel like a lesson like this of knowing when to tell the truth and when to lie, or if it even is okay to lie, is a very important thing to think about. I feel like I said at the start of this video, we are always told that lying is a terrible thing to do and it's very immoral. But there are times where it's like, yeah, it's much more better to lie. Well, if you like this video, please leave a like down below. And if you want to see more videos from me, then please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be posting more videos, obviously. I might get more into the whole yap sessions now, if I'm looking to the future more of this channel. Besides, I am a D1 yapper. But anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good night.